So hello, this is a training session for CDS coordinators. So I did one of these sessions with some of your squad the other day, and I used that one as a bit of a fact-finding mission, essentially, as to where you guys saw the gaps were and the sort of things that you thought that you might need to cover. So let me introduce you, by the way, to the Padlet. So you'll get links to these shortly. There's one for Athena and there's one for Guardian. So essentially this is going to be your go-to resource for most of your questions. So you've got a little magnifying glass up here. So if you're on the floor, you're like, oh no, how do I do this thing?
Sorry,
how do I?
Francesca, I can't see it. Can everyone else see it? Sorry.
Okay. No,
I can't see anything. I can only see you.
Do you know what? I need a t-shirt at the end of this process that says, Francesca, share your screen. Okay, so there we go. Can you see it now? Should be like a green screen.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Sorry, my bad. Okay, so as I said, this is the Padlet. There's one for Athena, there's one for Guardian. It's supposed to be your first go-to resource. So you've got a magnifying glass up here. If you suddenly think to yourself, God, how do I discharge a patient? I've forgotten. So you can search in here and it will pull up any pads that have that phrase in it. So how to discharge a patient, how to discharge to the health visitor, how to discharge a baby. At the moment, it's much fuller of questions than it is of answers. By the time we get to live, it should have videos, text explanations and potentially visual guides for every single one of these. So I started populating a CDS coordinators bar. So some of the things that I heard in the session the other day that you quite like to be able to cover: how to discharge a patient, how to review antenatal notes, how to do a short booking, how to take a triage call, initial triage, ongoing care, how to refer for an ultrasound scan or for DAU ongoing care, how to see ultrasounds, how to generate a baby number, how to complete a NIPE, and how to print full paper notes for transfer. Also, I've got another one on the Guardian screen about how to do a home birth. So this was my intention, to go through these questions. Is there anything else that's not in that list that you think, Francesca, please can we look at that as well?
Francesca, my one is not to add to this list there, but what about MCA training? Because they're going to be documented on this. Are they going to have some training?
What are they going to be documenting?
OBS and triage admissions and personal baby care and like on the wards and everything.
So the triage MCAs should have done the antenatal inpatients training, or they can just directly do the triage training. I haven't trained the CDS MCAs. I thought I'd captured the triage MCAs. If I haven't got them all, then let me know and I'll get them booked in.
The labelled
labels
do like
triage
support and OBS for EOR, and yeah, so it probably is worth getting the labelled MCAs trained up on stuff as well, because even if they take ladies out for a shower and things like that, they can at least then add that to the documentation.
Yeah, sometimes I use the MCAs for feeding and stuff, so that might be handy if they can document that.
Okay, fine. I will track them down and get them some training materials. No worries. Okay, cool. Is there anything else on that list in terms of questions that you think we need to cover?
No, but I missed the first minute of this. And where is this list found?
So this thing, it will go out by email. It's also going to go on laminated QR code posters all over the unit. So you'll just be able to hold an iPad up to it, hold your phone up to it. It's got a search function up here in the top right hand corner. If you're suddenly just like, can't remember how to do that, you can search what you're looking for and it should pull up whatever it's got. As an FYI on these, if you leave a comment on any of these posts with a question or leave a comment on the Q&A, it sends me an email directly. So that means that whilst I'm sitting there locked in the control centre, which is what they're doing with me for several days after go live, I can go in, I can answer the question, I can add some training materials. So if we're seeing the same questions again and again on day one, we can nail that down, cover it, and together collaboratively build a resource that covers most of our questions. Does that make sense?
Another question to add to that list, me again,
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
what do you do about holiday makers and
Mhm.
you know, if there was someone that was unbooked with us and they, or even an interview trying to transfer to us, how would we do that?
Yeah. So we just say unbooked, but let's also put holiday makers in because that's something that people might search. Get that unbooked patients. Because as I said, this list that we're generating now in this conversation is a list that everybody across the service is going to have access to. So do just feel free to vomit out your queries, because if you're asking, someone else is probably asking. So we'll just crack on with it for a minute. So essentially the feedback that I had, and it's quite right, when I booked you guys on, I booked you all for Guardian because Athena didn't really make sense in the format that we were training it, because you do antenatal inpatient, postnatal inpatient, routine antenatal, booking, postnatal outpatient, those sorts of formats. But there are overlaps between Guardian and Athena, so the things that you guys are going to need to be able to do. So a big chunk of what I'm going to do in this session is Athena. So Guardian and Athena, they come from the same database, so they're basically the same system. It's just different interfaces, different ways of getting that information in, different ways for that information to be presented. So what I'm going to do, if that's all right, is I'm going to show you the Athena overview video. It's about 6 or 7 minutes long, but it gives you a view on what Athena is, what it looks like, and what it does. Is everybody all right with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. Oh, I might just have to reshare that though, because I don't know if I shared the audio. The music comes in pretty quickly, so if you can't hear anything, then shout me and let me know.
In this video, we will be outlining the functional navigation of the K2 Athena system. Please ensure that your username and password have both been set up prior to accessing Athena. Upon logging into the system, the first page you will see is the home screen. For ease of navigation, this has been divided into 5 separate tiles. On the home screen, you will also be able to adjust your settings via the Tools wizard. Here, you can view software information, adjust the font to your preferred size, see any updates, view the log file, change your password, check your network connectivity, and view regulatory information. It is important to note, once you are finished using Athena or are away from your device, you will need to either log out, exit, or lock the system. This is in order to comply with information governance and data protection laws. There are various ways that you can find women that have been admitted onto the system. The first being via the locations tile. Here you can find clinics as well as inpatient wards. In this example, we will look at an inpatient stay and show you how to admit a woman to Argyll. At the top of the screen, you will see the Admit Woman button. Clicking this will take you to the search bar where you can find the woman you'd like to admit, either by inputting their hospital patient ID, NHS number, name, or date of birth. Each woman admitted will have a 3-dot menu where you can select some quick actions that need to be undertaken. Or you can go into the View Full Inpatient Notes, and this will include everything that can be entered throughout the inpatient stay in managed tabs for ease of access. These tabs include admissions, management, risk assessments, clinical assessments, observations, specialisms, investigations, fetal assessments, procedures, labor, and outcome. Going back to the home page, we will now look at the Teams tile. The teams are separated into different staff groups for ease of access. The first one we will look at is specialist referrals. Behind this screen you will see pending referrals, which the team can either accept or reject. We also have our consultant teams. Here you will see all women assigned to a consultant. Next is the midwifery team. Here you will see all women assigned to a midwifery team. You can also filter the search so that you can see women assigned to an individual midwife. In the Management of Women team, you will see a list of all women. You can filter by teams, assigned midwife, and assigned consultant. There is also a safeguarding team that women can be referred to. The third tile is My Desk. Next to My Desk is the Quick Tasks tile, which can be used for a new booking or to enter delivery information. For a new booking, once you click the button, you will have the option to search for the woman you would like to book. You can do this by inputting her hospital patient ID, NHS number, first name, surname, or date of birth. The final tab on the home screen will be mainly used by admin staff and team leaders. Here they can create custom reports from data that has been entered into the system. Here you can see the search button. We will now use this to search for an example woman. Please note these are test patients and we will not be using real patient data. Once you have searched for your patient, the system will ask you to confirm that you have selected the correct person. You will need to check and select yes or no. This will take us into their main notes. The main notes are divided into sections at the top, and when you hover over them, more selections will appear. The tabs are divided into the woman's profile, obstetric profile, medical profile, social profile, screening profile, plan of care, communications, pregnancy outcome, and audit. The next tab is the consultations and admissions, where you can view any helpline contacts. You can view the booking to-do list and all information entered. You can view antenatal consultations, see hospital stays and visits, and lastly view postnatal consultations. The antenatal tab includes plan of care, observations, specialisms, procedures, investigations, fetal assessments, and pregnancy outcomes. This is designed so that anything entered during an inpatient stay or consultation will all appear here in one easy-to-view place. This is the same for the specialisms, where anything entered will pull through. In investigations, you can view investigation history and make more offers if required. Next is the intrapartum section. This is mainly covered by the Guardian system, but here you can see anything intrapartum that has been added against the woman, view baby information, and view reports. Then you can view the postnatal section, with the postnatal summary, observations, investigations, baby checks, plan of care, checklists, and discharge from care to health visitor. The final tab across the top is the green baby button, where you can view previously entered information, as well as record new information regarding the baby post-birth. On the main note screen, you can also see several icons on the left-hand side. The risk flower in this instance is pink as the pregnancy is high risk. If the pregnancy is low risk, the flower will be green, and if data is yet to be entered, it will be grey. You can select the flower to perform a risk assessment and view active risks. Next is the meds icon, which should be used to enter any patient medications. The final icon can be used to add a new referral by selecting a referral reason and destination. There is also an Actions tab where you can view active actions, add new ones, and view completed ones. The three icons here are indicative of domestic abuse, social services involvement, and safeguarding. These icons will change depending on what is added in confidential mode. Confidential mode can be accessed by clicking the C in the top left-hand corner and authenticating. Once you go into confidential mode, look at the social profile where there are more tabs available to enter. These are highlighted with the flashing C to indicate that they can only be viewed in confidential mode. If you leave confidential mode, the C icon acts as a prompt to let you know that there are more hidden tabs. This brings us to the end of the functional navigation of K2 Athena. Thank you for watching.
Any immediate questions based on what you've seen?
Not gonna lie, a little bit worried on my head. Just gonna take all that in.
Yeah, I think Fran, is this going to be only accessible via like a laptop or a workstation, this bit?
Yes.
Am I correct in that? Yeah. So do our normal PCs, we can access that from what we've currently got on Labourboard, or do we need?
And you're also going to have some workstation on wheels that are going to come down to you as well. So
Okay.
laptops or trolleys that you can take into rooms to look at that as well. The obstetricians are keen to do the outside the door walled round bit, for example, using a workstation on wheels. So you can look at that overview rather than looking at the portal.
Okay.
But so just remember that Athena and Guardian are symbiotic. So any information entered on Guardian appears on Athena and the other way round. So it's just different ways of accessing it, essentially. Most of the work that you guys are going to do is going to be in Guardian rather than in Athena. So let's go back to my tablet and let's have a look at my questions. So where is a good place to start? So let's have a look at how to review the antenatal notes. So I'll just go and boot Athena. Just going to tidy all this up. So your logins for Athena, let me share my screen. I remembered, look at me, very proud of me. That one, we're going to share the entire screen. I'm going to go in there. So your usual logins that you would use for any Theraford device work for Athena. So we'll just do a little bit more navigation based on the things that you just seen. So your locations tab. So your locations give you your inpatient list essentially. So let's go and have a look. What have we got on Argyll? So we've got 3 patients on Argyll at the moment. If you wanted to look at their notes, you can just click. You can look at either the inpatient notes, which is just related to their current stay, or you can view their full notes. Let's go to CDS. Okay, so these are our patients that are currently on CDS. You can see we've got a few that are delivered, 36 plus 6. So if you want to review a patient, so once they're admitted on the Guardian portal to CDS, so you've done that bit where you've just gone in as you usually do, that will also admit them on Athena. You don't have to do it in a separate way. So if you want to come outside the room and look at a woman's notes, you would go to the CDS button and you would go in and find them in here. And you can go view notes, and that's going to give you their full history. So in terms of things that you might want to look at for your patient, so on your front screen, it gives you that sort of quick overview. It can tell me that her EDD is the 4th of November, got her BMI, any of her previous risk assessments, for example. The thing that I think is probably going to be most useful for you guys, if you go into profile, you can look at the pregnancy profile, so everything related to this particular pregnancy. You can look at LMP, if there's any fertility history, any of those sorts of things. And you can look at her full obstetric history, which she doesn't seem to have any, but it would have details of previous births, deliveries, weights, any of those sorts of things. When you come up here, so I hope in Guardian they covered the risk flower. So I lovingly call this the Ockenden flower. So this is that risk assessment that we're going to complete for all women whenever we see them. And it's also a really good way of just getting a quick overview of what's going on with this woman. So she's preterm birth, high risk. She's got family history of type 2 diabetes. Looks like this woman's actually delivered. So she's had an instrumental delivery. So that's generated a risk for her there. Looking at her scans, if you want to look at her scans, so you would go to antenatal. And then over here, it's under the fetal assessment tab, and you would go into the assessment history. So she hasn't got one recorded, so let's quickly just generate one for her. So this is work that's going to be done, not by you, this would already be here, but what I need to do is I need to generate an offer in order for something to have been recorded against it. So what you would have, once the scan's been uploaded, it lives here. So you'd go to view and it would pull up the PDF of the scan report and you'd be able to see that. But also, of course, as much as you do need to look at the scan results, if there was anything in that scan that was of concern, so if the baby's SGA, low PAP-A, any of those sorts of things, the system would already have generated those risks and added them to her risk flower. So not saying don't go and look, but there is a process going on that makes sure that the risks are up to date. Are there any other things that you think you'd like to be looking at in the antenatal history that we haven't talked about?
Blood results, are they on there?
Yep. So you can go to in the profile. If you go to where is our investigations? So again, in antenatal investigations, remember you can also look at these on Guardian. These tabs are quite similar. When you go into the actions tab on Guardian, you've got an investigations button. The structure is quite similar, so you can pull them in there. But you can look, these are all of the investigation offer history. You don't have any results in there at the moment because we're not currently tied to live, but in live you'll also be able to see all of the results. They'll come through for you automatically. Any other things that I can show you?
We didn't get shown the results in that Guardian thing.
Okay, I can show you where they are in Guardian in a minute. We can break the test system in that. But essentially it's in that big actions button. And there's an investigations button that will show you exactly the same screen, it just pulls in the same way.
Can you show me where the fundal height chart is on here?
Yep. So in antenatal, and this one I want to say is in, where are you? Let me just think my way through this. Where is it? Because we recently moved it. So it is going to be under consultations and admissions. Hold on, let me just find it. Consultations, antenatal. It's under abdominal palpation. So is it under your observations? Let's just have a look. Yeah, so it's antenatal and then observations. And then you come down to your abdominal palpation and you've got your symphysis fundal height chart in there. Okay. Any other things that you'd like pointing to?
When we want to enter a symphysis fundal height onto that chart there, is it literally just by adding a comment?
So you'd go abdominal palpation, add new.
And my apologies for being a few minutes late there.
No worries. So you can add it in Athena, but again, you can also add it in Guardian, and the records that you enter in Guardian will pull through to Athena. But it's your time and date of your palpation, abdomen palpated, yes, no. Enter your symphysis fundal height. So we've done that. Longitudinal, 4/5 for each. Let's go cephalic, appears within normal range. And next, I want to reason. Fetal position, let's do a bit of that. So it's recorded it there, and you see that it's pulled it through to the chart over there. Okay, cool. Any other things that you might like to know about or look at?
Sorry, Francesca, just a question again about, so in triage, are we using Guardian or are we using Athena, or are we mixing both? Because presumably the big screens will have Guardian and then the computers will be using Athena?
Exactly that, yes. So we'll use triage, we'll use Athena for the initial triage call, but then you'll admit them on the portal in triage and it will take you through the BSOTS algorithm. I'll run you through triage in a sec. Any more questions on things you might want to find?
I think it's just that we just want to play on it. I think once you've got it in front of you and you just mess around, it will probably you'll learn where everything is, won't you? It's just you just need access to mess around.
Yeah, that's fine. I can do that for you. No worries.
What about postnatal readmissions?
In terms of how you're going to document against them?
Yeah, because they're not pregnant and you're not going to add their baby. They've had that, so.
But so what you would do is you would go home. Tell you what though, I am just going to make the effort to go and put that on my Padlet.
Thank you.
That's all right. So what you would do is you would go into your locations, you would go to CDS, and you would search for your patient. So let's put a patient. Susie Cole, I happen to know, has had a baby. Let's find her. There you go. So you're going to complete a risk assessment. It's going to prompt you to do that. Date and time now, type of inpatient stay postnatal. So say she's come in from home, or probably she's come through triage, hasn't she? And she's been asked to come in that way. Reason for admission. So let's say she's got a medical condition and admission. Any admission comments? So she is now admitted onto the ward. It just takes a minute for it to pull through. So she appears down there. So then you can assign her to a bed. Let's put her in room 2. So she will now appear up here. And then you'd go view inpatient notes. And then you can document anything that you are doing for her. So you can, for example, go and look at her management plans. You can do any risk assessments or postnatal assessments that you're going to do for her. Risk assessments are in here. You can enter your OBS in here. You can enter any MUs. You can update the blood loss record. Any of the things that you might want to do in that one. The thing that's going to be most useful for you here is going to be your admittance narrative. Because what it's going to do is this is the closest thing to the paper notes. And so it will enter any action that's been completed via a wizard. So you can see there that I've admitted her to CDS and the admittance reason is a medical condition. And you can add additional notes in here if you want. You just free text it. You can say admitted as unwell, OBS equal normal, or med review. As an example, and then finish. And so then that data is being pulled through to this sheet. So what you can do is you can either document her on Athena, or you can readmit her to Guardian, but she's not in established labour. So it's not going to give you all those labour prompts. It's just going to allow you to enter episodes of care in the same way we've done here, entering your observations, any sepsis tools, any of those things that you've done, same as for a labouring patient. If you haven't done the labour diagnosis wizard to say they're in labour, it will just allow you to document like this in the same way.
So would you recommend if they're postnatal that we use like a laptop instead, or is it fine to?
Yeah,
I don't know. It's
fine just to use Guardian, and I'd say it's probably easier because you've got the portals in the room to just use.
Yeah,
Guardian.
You've got the screen there. Fine.
Yeah, but you can use either. It doesn't matter. The information, as I said, wherever it enters, it goes to the record in the same way, and you can do everything on the portal that you can do on Athena. So it would seem to make more sense to do it on Guardian.
Is EOR getting a station, or is it just going to be like a cow that we use for EOR?
Yeah, just the same. Just use one of the workstations on wheels, or you can use a portal if there's one available.
What happens if the whole system goes down?
That's a good question.
Thinking positive.
Francesca will cry.
I won't, because it'll be fine. Well, I'll cry if it goes down in community. If it goes down in community, then I resign. But if it goes down in labour ward, actually, you guys are fairly well protected. So let's talk about the different scenarios in which we can lose the system. So I'll bring my face back just for a second. Different ways that we can lose the system. So things that might happen. So power failure. I saw the Datex to say that we lost a big chunk of power to parts of the ward. It made me a bit anxious this morning, but all right. So in those situations, you can plug the portal into the essential sockets, providing you've got lights to be able to see. You can continue to document in the portals in that fashion. Other problems that we might have. So say we lose Wi-Fi. So if we lose Wi-Fi, we lose central monitoring. That doesn't work. However, the portals have got a buffer, and I was in a meeting about this the other day, and people just said buffer too many times, and it all just got a bit delirious. But essentially, they've got a buffer which is local storage, and they take a copy of the patient record every 24 hours. So we can continue to document on the portals for up to 4 days without having full internet connection. And as soon as we have got an internet connection, then it will hit the network and it will upload all of the information. So that's what happens if we lose power. You change the plug sockets. If we lose Wi-Fi, then you can plug into the wall, as we've done previously. The other issue we might have is if we lose the database. So if we lose the ability to record information, but in that situation, same thing again, we can just work in the buffer and work there for up to 4 days. So we can continue to document, but it means that the records won't be updated in the same way. So K2 have given us assurances. I'm not saying it out loud, but it has been some number of years since K2 have ever had a catastrophic system failure in that fashion. So I'm hopeful. But the problem that you'll have if we lose the database is that the record won't update. So other people looking in the system will not be able to see recent episodes of care since the portal or whatever it is has since hit the database. Does that make sense? Other things that are going to happen. So I need to set up a Teams channel with all in maternity, can you imagine, for IT outages. So if I get a report that the system's down, I have to go to IT and to K2 to try and establish what the problem is. And then communally, a decision needs to be made about whether we're going to continue, or in the very, very worst cases, whether we're going to revert to paper. And if we revert to paper, we're currently updating the business continuity plan. Then you would document as we do now, essentially, and then we would need to look at a process for adding those pertinent points of care back into the record. So going to paper is literally the case of last resort. But for most situations, labour ward's much better protected. Community's not in such a good position. If we lose the database in community, that is a much, much, much bigger problem. But for you guys, you're mostly covered, you're all right.
And transferring a patient to theatre, Francesca. So when we're unplugging them, because some of them are still plugged into the ports.
Yeah.
That would mean that it's obviously then not going to be uploading anything, is it? So
No.
it would just be, I'm guessing that would just be going onto this buffer thing until it's plugged back in again.
Well, so it won't record any information whilst you're
I thought that was the
transferring.
briefcase thing. I thought you said that's when we put it in a briefcase.
No, so that's for community. We wouldn't do that for CDS.
No
We had
briefcasing.
no briefcases for CDS. We had quite a long conversation about this. But if you think about it, in our current practice, we wouldn't be documenting anything while we're transferring, would we? So
No,
what you're
in
going to do is,
theatre. Yeah, it's just like you won't have Wi-Fi in theatre. Well, do you have Wi-Fi in theatre? I don't know.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi in theatres is superb. It's much better than CDS. They upgraded it for BlueSphere. So yes, you will take the portal into theatre with you, and we'll do a bit of Guardian in a minute. But essentially what the midwife is going to be doing is running the scribes, so either the section scribe or the instrumental scribe, to press the buttons of, knife to skin, knife to uterus, whatever other actions need to be documented, just pressing those buttons. And you can continue to add text in theatre as you feel you need to. That one is a bit of a double-hander, because what you're doing is you're using the scribe to press the buttons to enter that data and information, because then when the obstetrician goes to do their op note, all of those times and bits of information they can directly take into their record without having to chase us down or pay attention to the clock or any of those sorts of things. So in theatre, we are going to continue to document procedures. Cool.
Will it automatically link to the Wi-Fi when we get into theatre? Do we have to do something magical to make it work?
Nope, absolutely not. Nope.
Okay. Only because I'm coming in from my friend's section on the day that we go live.
Okay.
but you'll be around.
Thinking about yourself there, Mel.
Exactly, thinking about myself. Exactly.
I'll add that though as another point that I need to go in and do a bit of reinforcement on. Let's have a look on your list though. Are you happy with that bit for a minute? You happy to go and do something else?
Yeah.
Cool. So this question then about what do you do if you've got holidaymaker or someone that hasn't got a record? So in that situation, what you do is you get Francesca to press the share button so that you can see. Well done. I'm very good at this today. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into Athena. And in here, home, in your team section, you have got this button, UHP Management of Women, All Women. And then what you can do is you can do a new short booking. So they will need to have a UHP hospital number because K2 pulls from IPM. So you would still need to speak to reception to get them a hospital number, and then you'll be able to search by their hospital number, though now we're only supposed to search by NHS numbers, and what you would be able to do is generate them a record. So it puts you through this wizard. Date and time of booking is going to be now. Date appointment was requested is going to be now. Don't need an interpreter. Previously seen in this pregnancy, no. Trust is intrapartum, lead provider, yes. Though actually for this one, previously seen in this pregnancy, you would say yes because they've been looked after by somebody else. So in here, maybe they've been seen by Exeter. So to what extent is this trust now caring for this woman, attending for one episode? Next, and then you follow through the screens. If you know her LMP, you can enter it. If you don't, you can just go next. Again, if you've seen her records, then you can enter things. So it's today, EDD is agreed. Reason booked by date has not been met. So let's call her a late referral. Type of care that she's going to receive with us. I think if you've never seen them before, you're going to put them to consultant led. You're not going to enter any of those details. Let's put her in there. Okay. You assign her to whichever consultant who's currently on. So let's say Ellie Med. Yep. Smoking status. If you don't know these, you can go unknown, no, declined. What about CK? Yes, no, yes, no. The thing I want to offer you some reassurance on is that if you have a woman turn up in advanced labour that you don't know anything about, as long as she has got a hospital number, you can just admit her onto Guardian using that IPM record, and you can just offer her labour care, and you can go back and do all this business after. So if you've got time to do this, then great, but if you don't, you can just admit her on Guardian, and it will allow you to care for her. Okay, now, no. In labour. Next. Nope. Nope. And then we are going to say what happens if I just go through. All explained and offered. All explained and offered. I'm not going to do a GTT. Nope. For me. So on here, this is the difference between offering the investigations and then actually ordering them. So offering them is having the conversation with the patient. Ordering them is actually putting them on ICM. No, routine. Explained and offered. No, routine. No, routine, and so on and so forth, essentially. There is loads of material. Set the booking is complete. Yes, time of completion now. Finish. So you've now got a K2 record that you can record against for her. And again, the way that you got to that was to go into your teams and into the all women, and then short booking in the top right hand corner. But if they're in labour and you just need to care for them, you don't need to faff over it. Get them a hospital number, admit them on the portal, care for them, and then deal with the paperwork later. What will happen is the system will try to sync it later on to make sure that the details are there that it needs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. Another question.
Yeah.
So if you've got someone who hasn't got internet access, so say a new doctor or a new midwife who hasn't got IT access, or they've been logged out, how would I log them back in or give them access?
So I need to show you guys how to do this. So all of you are admins on the K2 system. So the computer that sits beside the central monitoring screen in the office, the one with the little screen on the right hand side, that has got the K2 Athena desktop option. I will make you a video showing you exactly how to do it, but you can register users, providing they've got a GMC number, passport number, anything of that type. You can create them an account that they can use.
Gosh, this seems trusting to let us be admins.
Well,
It makes me worried.
I have to give you the capacity to be able to register staff in exactly that situation.
I can't even do the thumbprints.
No, I apologise in advance for anything that I do.
Well, we're currently recruiting a system manager who's going to take on all this sort of back end management, so you can apologise to them rather than me.
The other day I struggled to turn it on, so I mean I'm starting off from a good space.
But remember, if you're in a situation on the floor where you're like, I'm struggling, I don't know what to do, you'll be able to go to the Padlet and it will probably have the answer to your question with a little video guide. I'm also just going to put a little note on here for you guys how to register new users. Okay.
And thumbprints. How to register thumbprints.
Yeah, fine.
No, is that just because you can't reach?
No, it's because I genuinely people keep coming up to me and saying, "Can you do it?" And Francesca has shown me numerous times, and I still cannot remember how to do it.
Francesca,
Okay.
just while we're on that note, Ricky has prompted me to think. I was in triage yesterday, and
Yeah.
the unit that is in T2, I'm
Yeah.
not going to lie, it's unreachable.
Fine.
For us that are vertically challenged, and the keyboard is so high that I'm literally typing at my eye level. It's like I can't actually reach the top of the screen to do the admit patient. I have to go right on tippy toes and do a little jump to press it.
Okay.
So I don't know if that can be lowered. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, I'll add a note to see if I can get
It
them to
did
do
make
that
me
for us.
chuckle though.
You can always, though, in those situations, you can, if you can't reach it, I will try and fix it for you. But you can go and get a workstation on wheels. You can document at the bedside to use that. I know there's not a lot of space in there anyway. Or you can document in the office or any of those sorts of things.
It was admitting onto a CTG, but like, you know, when you have to admit her to start, I like CTG so you can see it on Central, but the admit button's right at the top and that screen does not lower itself.
Oh, mate. Okay, fine. All right, cool.
And you've made sure the central monitor is all right for me and Mel, haven't you? You said the other day
like the
you've measured that.
Yeah, it's a balance between being suitable for you guys versus not being hit by the tea trolley. So I
think that's a no, Mel.
I'm definitely I'm bringing in our IKEA steps now. I said I'm gonna get one for triage.
The thing is, mate, you're not gonna have to write on it. You're not gonna need to be up there.
You need to touch it though, don't you? Or
No.
do you have a different?
No. Just read
it's just there for show.
Yeah.
Well, invest
so the
in
ones
a,
that we need
ladder.
to touch are going to be at a suitable level.
Well, the ones that you need to touch are going to be the ones that are currently on the right hand side, because your outliers board and your IOL board, that's not going anywhere. It's just you're currently admitted on the ward board
Okay.
that's going and is being replaced by the screen.
I've got a question with that as well. So if your big board that's going to show you all patients admitted, if there's a home birth going on, does that come up on that screen as well?
Yes.
Okay, fab.
Yeah. All patients currently in labour, all patients currently being cared for.
And Francesca, some of the screens where since they've attached the keyboards don't stay upright; they keep flopping down. Has anyone shown?
So
can we get a screwdriver?
About this. Yeah, right. I've asked K2 about this. They need some sort of tightening at the back. K2 have got to come back and fix one of my portals on DAU and also do a last couple of keyboards. So they're going to do that at the same time for me. There's some floppy ones on Argyle as well.
Talking about keyboards, home birth question, will there be like a silicone cover for the laptops that go out on to home births for A, waterproofing, and B, like wipe clean ability?
That's not something that I had thought of, but I can see if I can get you some.
It's just a lot of home births involve a water birth, and if they're going to be used by multiple users in terms of infection control and, you know, the ability to clean them, we probably should have like one of those silicone stitches.
I'll see if I can sort that for you. I feel like we're rattling through our list. So we've done how to review antenatal notes. Let's keep me in order. We've done how to do a short booking. Let's try and do it in some sort of order that makes sense. So triage calls, initial triage, and ongoing care. So in the Guardian training, I think you should have seen the videos on how you take a triage call, but we'll just go back a little bit in that process because you literally just saw me and Shell take a call. Where does that live and how do you get there? So let me share my
Where does
screen.
Athena live? Is that just in G Drive?
So it'll be in departmental icons.
Thank you so much, Liz, because I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah. So
you know, I hadn't even thought of that, and I would have got to a computer and been like, how do I even get into
it? So in your locations, one of your locations is triage. So you're going to choose triage, and it's going to give you the board. The board makes me so happy. So BSOTs didn't exist within K2. We had to build this whole bad boy. But I'm a massive fan of it. So you've got your ward overview. So these are all the patients that are currently on triage. They've got their BSOTs rating, they've got their colours. So this is everyone. And it gives you this indication up here of what their rating is and one that's overdue. You can also then further break it down to your expected to attends, currently in rooms, in the waiting area awaiting triage, in the waiting area awaiting ongoing care, in the waiting area awaiting medical review, and you can see in there you've got one overdue. So you can go in and you can look at their attendance notes, you can look at their full pregnancy notes, you can look at their telephone history, and you can do their ongoing triage. You can give them a bed, you can send them to a ward, you can discharge and send them home. So the bit that you are going to need though when you answer the phone is up here, and you're going to have your take phone call number, and you are going to choose patient. So this one, I'm going to create a new pregnancy for her. I won't run you all the way through this because this is one where you're going to play. Essentially, you give your location when you're taking the call. If it's a neonatal call, let's say yes, then it runs you through a really simple algorithm. Calling from home, neonatal call details, and then literally it's the call ended, who the call is taken by. And that one. If you are going to take a phone call, and it is going to be a maternal call. So I'll just show you again, see if I can find a patient that's got some records. Who's got records? Stephanie Armstrong's deaf. Oh, she hasn't got records anymore. That's sad. She's got records. Okay, so your location when you're receiving the call, you're on triage. It's not a neonatal call. They're calling from this number. It's the patient and they're calling from home. It's going to give you your brief pregnancy summary, and it's going to give you your obstetric history, any pregnancy conditions, any fetal conditions, any hospital stays and visits. So on your hospital stays and visits, you'll also have any time that she has called triage and been invited in. So there's a difference here. There's a difference between times that they've called, which are all listed here, and then here you've got times that they've actually visited us. So often you'll see the call here and you'll see the visit here. But yeah, just to say that they are two separate things. It's not every time she's had a helpline contact, she's automatically been invited in. And then your situation, it pulls you through your BSOTS pathway. I won't do too much of this because it's fairly self-explanatory. You choose which algorithm you're going to push her through. You're going to talk about movements, about SHROM. She's in no pain. She hasn't had any bleeding. She's got no abdo pain. Let's say, I can't remember the reason that I said that she was calling. Any contractions, any signs of hypertension, anything in your additional information. And then it's going to give you the guideline as suggested by BSOTS. So for antenatal bleeding, this is the suggestion, and then you make your plan about what you want to do. So let's say that we're going to ask her to attend triage. And then next, ended now, taken by me. So you see she now has appeared down here because she is on our expected to attend. So she's on our ward overview. She's just sitting at the bottom. She's got no BSOTS rating because she's not had her initial triage yet. She just sits down there and you're expected to attend. And you can see she called at 18:50 today and it's been 3 minutes since that call. So when she's actually here, woman is attending. Now she's come from home. She was asked to come in by the helpline. Reason for admission, we said, was antenatal bleeding. And so the reason that you do that is because it starts the timer. So you can see again, her timing's changed. So she attended at 18:53 today. Her waiting time is now back to 0 minutes because we know how long she's been around attending for care. And then what you're going to do here is you're going to go down your bits on the left-hand side. So your initial triage, you can do here. Your ongoing care, you can do here. If she needs med review, that happens here. So we'll just do the first one. So triage started now by me. And so you can see anything that was entered on that initial assessment screen that we just did. So she hasn't got any info. Relevant history. So again, that's going to pull her pregnancy profile, notable history, obstetric history, family stuff. And you'll be able to see all of this on the screen at the bedside. Any information about her current pregnancy, any medications, any allergies. And then you can just work down through the buttons and enter the information. And then right at the end down here, you're going to enter your triage rating. And so it gives you an indication based on what you've seen of what you should be doing. So let's say we're going to make her yellow. Okay, so that's now going to update her. Just give it a second to get its act together.
So Francesca, if MCA done the OBS, would they have to sign in separately to add those odd OBS, or do I input them on their behalf? Or
no, the MCA would need to sign in to do it.
Okay. And how would I sign off? Probably this might come later, but how would I countersign a student's notes?
Yep, I'll go over that for you as well. I do have that elsewhere, but I'll add it onto your board because you asked the question. Okay. Okay. So what the MCA would be able to do, so she has been marked as attending. So you would be able to go to the attendance notes and enter a set of observations over here, enter the muse, and that's going to directly pull across to the other record that you're going to see when you're doing the triage. You'll see the most recent OBS, you'll see the Muse chart. They don't need to go through the full triage algorithm. Okay. I've got additional videos that I'm going to send you on this. Like, there's quite long demos on how it works. So I might stop showing you the triage bit for now, if that's okay, because I'm conscious there's a few other bits that we need to get through. But does that broadly make sense in terms of how it works?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Cool. Beautiful. What else you got on your board? We've done how to take a triage call, how to do an initial triage, how to triage ongoing care. I'm going to do discharge a patient in a minute. How to refer for a USS. So let's do that. So if we go to our locations, so we go to triage. So we've got a patient that we want to make an offer of an ultrasound scan. So Emma Beckham is in here. You're going to go to her pregnancy notes. And this is where you can use the referrals button that's up here. So what you can do is you can add a referral, and the referral status is required. Referral reason is going to be, it will come up in the full system, but in mine, it's not going to do it for me. So what it should do in here, referral destination should be ultrasound. It should give me that option. I wonder if they fixed any of the others for me. Where else might have one that works? No, it's not going to pull through. So essentially, you would choose referral reason is reduced fetal movements, and your referral destination is ultrasound. You put your name in, and you're going to finish, and you're going to save. And so what that does is that puts her behind the ultrasound referral door. So the girls in antenatal clinic know to pick that up and then book them a scan. So you don't need to use the green cards anymore. Don't need to do anything. Just put the referral through for somebody to pick up and book for her. Same situation for DAU. If you want to send them for regular BPAs or prom checks or any of those sorts of things, you can just put a referral through to the assessment unit and somebody will pick it up and action it.
With the system, Francesca, say reduced fetal movement, she's had 2 attendances over 28 weeks. Is there any kind of auto prompt on that, or is that still us knowing that?
It's still you knowing that, but you're going to have much better visibility, aren't you? Because you're immediately, the second you pick up that phone, you're going to be able to see her history. You're going to be able to see those helpline contacts and why she called and what happened when she came in. So I think if you run the RFM pathway, though, let's just do that one quickly, because that one runs slightly differently to the others. So if you take a phone call, patient. Oh, they've cleaned all my patients. Who do I know? I know the Youngs have all had care. Francesca Wright as well. So location, we're taking the calls triage. It's not neonatal. Phone number is this. Patient, home, next. Pregnancy hump summary, obstetric history, conditions, fetal conditions. So she came through triage in labour historically. So if we then say it's reduced fetal movements, so we're going to say they're reduced. There's no indications of SHROM. She's not in any pain. There's no bleeding, no abdo pain. None of that. None of that. Anything in your assessment? So we're going to attend triage. And she is going to attend triage. Now, by me. So now, when she appears, wherever she is, no, come on, come on. Can I use somebody else? complete view triage. I should have red rating. What is her sitch? No, because I've already set it. She's antenatal bleeding. Let's just see if our other one's going to show up. Sometimes it takes a couple of minutes for them to arrive. In fact, let's go and talk about something else while we come back to her. But I'll show you the reduced fetal movements pathway. We come back to that one in a second. Are you happy about the referrals for ultrasound scan and DAU? You go into the patient's notes, you press the referral button in the top left-hand corner, you choose the reason for the referral, it wings its way off for antenatal clinics to pick up.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, thank you.
We've done how to see ultrasound scans, how to complete a NIPE, we've done unbooked patients, we've done managing postnatal readmissions, we've done theatre, registering new users, thumbprints and countersign. Let's do countersigning because that's quite an easy one. So the way that works, so there is an official process for countersigning a student, and the way that you can do that, so let's just pull a patient. So see if there's one on Argyle I can use. And it's in Athena, and you can go profile and counter signature down here at the end under audit. You can countersign, and you can enter the name of the person that you're countersigning for. You can't countersign me because I shouldn't be allowed out on my own. And then the start of the review period and the end of the review period. So you can countersign for a whole shift, you can countersign for an hour, whatever it is that you want to say. And you can say either the record is appropriate and accurate, or you want to make some changes, or you've discussed it with the student or whatever, and then finish. However, that's the sort of official process. I'm not at all in any way suggesting that you can't do what you do at present and go in and leave a note. And just say reviewed student records for the last 2 hours or for the last 30 minutes, you know, happy with entries that they are accurate and appropriate. You're going to be able to see that if there's ever any reason that we need to go and look at the quality of the episode of care delivered, you're going to be able to see that in the full notes. So there's no reason not to do that. But there is an official process that you can go through in Athena by going to audit. And then you've got this official countersign stamp as you go. But I feel like people are probably going to find it quite difficult to potentially squeeze in the time to do that. As long as you have recorded in the notes that you have reviewed the care given and you're happy with it, there's no particular obligation for you to go this way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go and see if Our Lady has appeared in triage. She says, hopefully. Oh, where is she? Why is she not in my expected to attend? What other reasons have we got? Oh, so she's a reduced fetal movements. So when you go in and you go to complete or view the triage, so what it's going to do there, again, you're going to review all of these different points in your initial triage. You're going to enter your observations and give her a rating. When you do her next layer, so when you do her ongoing care, so that next step, in here, it is going to give you the prompt. So it's going to ask you to record when you started the ongoing care. It's going to prompt you to do a CTG review, consider offering a scan in these situations, abdominal palpation, perform USS as per local guidelines, if normal CTG, so on and so on and so on. So it does give you advice as per the BSOPS guideline of what it is that you should be doing, but of course it's always as per your clinical judgment. Does that answer your question, Mel? Does that make you happy?
Yeah, that does. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I feel like I'm never going to remember all of these like routes. That's, I think, like Liz said, we just need to be able to have a play, because
Yep.
like, watching all of these things, like a bit like Mel said, like my brain's going to explode. Like, oh my God, how am I going to remember all of these things?
But you don't particularly have to. You just sort of have to remember how to get to the Padlet, because the Padlet will give you a step-by-step instruction onto how to get to it. Or you,
So where
you
is
know,
the Padlet?
How do we get to the Padlet?
Yeah, how do we
so
get to the Padlet?
I will send it out via email, but also I'm
Okay,
going to put laminated QR codes everywhere, so that you can just hold up a phone.
Oh yeah,
hold up an
you said at the
iPad.
beginning. I forgot that.
And
Yeah.
Francesca, really basic. So when we click on the departmental icon and we log on to Athena,
Yeah.
there's looks like there's squares, and we go to where to get to the patient record. Okay,
to get to the patient's record.
Yeah.
So
like just
what
going
you
back
would
to
do-
absolute zero.
No,
Did you
totally fine.
go to
There's
the-
2 ways you can do it. So for you guys, you're probably going to be dealing with a patient in the inpatient setting. So you can go to your locations, you can go to CDS, you can just go in to her directly that way. You can view her full notes, or you can just use the notes for her inpatient stay. You want to go that way. The other thing that you can do is, if you go back, there's a search button up here, and you can just search her name and pull up her information that way. But yeah, so you either find her through the ward that she's admitted to, or you can search her up there.
Perfect, thank you.
Cool. What else have I got in your questions? How to discharge a patient. I feel like we've sort of got to that point. Oh, print full paper notes for transfer. I'll show you that one as well, because it's quite an easy one. Again, don't expect you guys to remember all of these things, but some bits will stick for different people. So these are your CDS patients. So say you need to send her to Penrose, and you need to send her notes with her. So you can go into profile. Again, this is in your audit over here. And you can choose whether you want every interaction or whether you want the clinical interactions. And you can choose whether you want absolutely everything or whether you want just since the last time she had a consultation, which was 14th of November, or the consultation before that, or whichever point that you want to use. You can filter the type of information that you want to share. And then you would press this button for print subject access request, and it will give you absolutely everything in her record. When you press that button, just heads up, it takes about 10 minutes. So you might think that it's not doing anything. So please don't press it twice, because the trees will die, because it will give you 400 pages of information. But that's how you would do it, essentially. You can go in and print the full notes there.
Can that be exported into a Word document?
Well, no. Well, what you could do, if you were being clever. Oh no, it's going to do it. Oh no. What it's probably going to do in a minute, I'm hopeful. Oh no, it's just going to do this for 10 minutes now. So it will probably ask you to what printer you want to send it to. So rather than send it to a printer, you could save it as a PDF instead. You could choose a PDF print rather than a regular print, and then it will save it as a document for you.
So it can be exported into a PDF document as opposed to a Word document instead of having to print it.
Yeah, so what this is going to do is it's now going to print all the paper. That's what it's going to try and do. But you can save it as a PDF.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't need to know that information, do I?
Nope. Fine. I might have to now try and like crash and burn my way out of this itch.
The only reason I was asking for that is obviously just in case, instead of like, obviously if you've got an entry between, I don't know, the 14th of November and the 12th of November, if you exported it to a PDF document, but you only wanted to print a small section of it as opposed to the entirety of it, you can then sort of select page X to Y instead.
Yeah.
That's why I was asking Mel.
So this is what it's doing now. So it's asking me the printer that I want to send it to. So I could instead send it to a PDF. And okay. And that's going to give me the PDF document instead. Desktop. record. I've never played with this before, so I'm just interested to see what it does. This is where it's going to start spending like 10 minutes doing everything. We'll potentially come back to that in a minute. Fine. So also on your list, you had discharging a patient. So you do need Athena to do that. You can do most of the work on Guardian. Do you know what? I'm not that invested in understanding how to do that. I'm going to crash out of it so I can show you something else. Sorry, Athena. But you see the principle. So this one. I'll go back in. So discharging a patient. So you've got your patient here on CDS, Susie Cole. She's delivered. Looked after by me, clearly. Do the inpatient notes. So
sad that it says delivered. I'm just putting it out there, but I'm so sad it says delivered and not born.
Yeah, I know. I'm also very sad that there's no options on pronouns. There are many arguments that I've had along the way, but I'm continually told that this is a national model, and if I want to go negotiate it, I can, which I will. But yeah, there was no leverage on that, I'm afraid. So in Guardian, you should have had the opportunity to learn how to do the outcomes. So this patient has had her delivery recorded here. So now if you want to send her home, 2 places that you need to go. So in admission, you go maternal discharge here on the left-hand side. And you go through and fill out the information in the discharge summary. Consented to discharge, discharged by me. Discharge, same as usual address, but it's going to be upset. Did I send the baby home with the mum? Yes. Usual stuff, uterus well contracted, yes. It's not involuting. Moderate lochia. So it's already pulling through information that was entered in the outcomes. So it knows that this patient didn't have perineal trauma or an abdominal wound, so it's not going to ask me to document that. Bladder status, she's doing all right. No concerns about this one. Bowel action seems to be okay. Investigations checked, yes.
I didn't think we had to measure their wee anymore. Will it not let us go past that? Where you put volume of first void?
No, it's fine because you don't have to enter it. So you can just go to the next
okay.
screen if you don't have any information.
All right, okay.
No outstanding investigations. I last took her HP today. She's not had an MRSA swab. Have I talked about contraception? Yep. Now, nope. Yep. 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 If we were administering contraception at this stage, then you can document it in here. Any problems prior to discharge? Any ongoing regional anaesthesia complications? Any drugs? Any blood products? Anti-D required, yes or no? If you administer anti-D, then you can put it in here. Does she need a debrief? How's she doing emotionally and psychologically? I'm also really sad here about the 3rd day blues. I'd like to get rid of that, please, but just saying.
And the in morning, that's really weird. Like, yeah. I don't know, like, as a phrasing.
There's some very odd phrasing in this, but again, I have to go Victorian. Yeah. It's because there are already trusts that are using this system, and it's a national system, not locally configurable. So I have to go and talk someone else into to changing it. Most of this is what Liverpool does. And so details on the most recent mental health assessment. It prompts you if she's not had a mental health assessment postnatally. Details about breastfeeding. Any questions about breastfeeding problems? Smoking status. Is she going out of area for postnatal care? Does she need a community midwifery visit? Have you checked her serology? Have you talked about the results? Does she need an outpatient appointment? Have you arranged it? Does she need a urology referral? Does she need an incontinence referral? And so your postnatal appointments required, she's going to need her postnatal checkups. And you're done. So again, in reminding you of where you got to that, so in admission, that's your maternal discharge. And then the other thing that you need to do is in your checklists. And you've got these ones. So artificial feeding, breastfeeding, same as we always do. Coping with crying, important symptoms, same as we always do. And then you've got your maternal discharge checklist here, which has already been completed. And these are just those boxes that are on the back of the purple notes, essentially. You can say checklist all complete. You can just press the one button for that if you're happy with it. And finish. So those are your 2 points that you need to complete. That's for mum.
Do we do that for the baby as well?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
is this just,
So,
do we just discharge the mum and that includes the baby?
so I don't know if she's had a baby. She had a baby? She must have had a baby. There's her baby. Okay, fine. So she hasn't properly birthed yet. Let me finish her birthing. And reviewed her scribe contents. Yeah, every time now. Today. Live. On all fours. Spontaneous vaginal. Sorry, no cord around the neck. Wasn't in water. Wasn't feedback. Okay. Oh, for gosh sake. None seen. Vertex. None. That one. None. And it was me. It won't give me the baby button to be able to enter the documentation until it knows that it's got a baby. Right, you get a baby. Yes. Okay. Baby details. Oh, do you know what? I'm going to go find one that's had a baby. And I'll show you in there. Who do I know has had a baby? Anyone on TC will have had a baby. So let's go in there. Yeah, cool. So now, because this baby has been delivered and we've done those screens, you've got your maternal discharge here and you've got your baby discharge here. So those are both under admission. And essentially, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to push through the screens. And then in checklists, you have got a maternal discharge checklist and a baby discharge checklist. And you go through and complete those. The only thing that I really need you to remember is under admission, discharge from the ward. So I'll show you what happens in community midwifery. So if we go home, so my desk. So the way that triage is going to work out in the community is that we're going to use a pull over here, which is, I'll do it this way because it's best. So say you're doing weekend clinic, you're going to go all discharged women last 24 hours. And this is all of the women. So you can see there's a couple of antenates, most of them are posties. And then you're going to be able to go in there and be able to do what are essentially your purple and lilac stickers, but you're going to do them digitally. So if you don't discharge them from the ward, they don't end up in this list. So please do discharge them when they go home to make sure they end up in the right place. And the place that you do that.
I was going to say, can you show us that again? The word,
Yeah.
the warders and the baby discharge. Did you go through that? You didn't. You just went through the mum.
Yeah, I just went through the mum, but it's the same. It'll just push you through screens.
All right.
So if you, what was I showing you again? Oh, yeah, how to discharge them. So view the inpatient notes. Here, discharge from ward. They require a risk assessment before they go home. We've described the drugs, baby's with mum, she's well, she's going home. She is having follow-up in community. Okay. And she's gone. So she will have disappeared off the ward and she will be available for triage. So if you could please get her to that place, that would be really good. Let's just have a look at any other questions that you had.
Sorry, Fran,
Oh,
just
yeah.
before you go any further.
Yeah.
Just considering that, like, TCW patient, I don't know, I may have missed this at some point with the training bits, but
Yeah.
per se, mum is a lodger on TCW and then gets redirected down to triage for an assessment because of, I don't know, she's day 13, 14, and she's got abdo pain with a bit of heavier bleeding that's unexpected.
Yeah.
What do we do then? Bearing in mind she's in the lodger status.
You should still be able to triage her. Let's give it a go and see what happens. Oh no, I've just
She
got
wouldn't come in through the maternity line though, would she? So is there a way that can the TCW midwife put her on the triage waiting list?
I'd rather if they didn't, because that's going to mess with my BSOTS data. So I mean, they can, yes. And also, but if you think about it, that neonatal call, that is quite quick to be able to document. So let's just have a look at this patient. So Wilma Flintstone, delivered at 4 weeks and 5 days. Love her, apparently. Let's try Natasha Young. So let's see what happens when we try and triage Natasha Young. So we're going to take a phone call. Young. Yep. Yeah, it's still going to let me triage her. It doesn't matter the fact that she's an inpatient upstairs. So let's do that. It's not a neonatal call. Patient is home.
So essentially, if she's a lodger upstairs on TCW,
Yeah.
and she goes to the midwife on TCW, says, I'm a bit concerned, etc., we have to then tell them she's got to phone the phone line to go through the system for BSOLs.
Well, I feel like that's what we do anyway, no? We tell them to call, or do we? I tell them to call. Maybe I'm just a bit cold-hearted.
I would say most of the time when I've been on TCW, I've sort of phoned down and said, well, not actually for me, actually, I'd say that the majority of the time when some of the ladies have been upstairs, they've just been phoned down to us and said, I'm sending a lady down, she's as a lodger.
Yeah. I think that one's a little bit individual practice. Maybe, as I said, I am incredibly cold-hearted, but I tell them to call. What do other people do? Mel Redding, what do you do in that situation?
I tell them to call.
Yeah, because then they can give their own story.
Yeah.
But yes, so
on the odd occasion, you can obviously the TCW midwife can readmit them to TCW and then get an SHO review. That's the other option.
Yeah.
But if it's something that you know that can be fixed just by seeing triage, then I get them to phone.
But then I suppose you and I would have the same answer because you taught me how to do this thing, eh? So so birth and postnatal complications, yes, no, unwell, yeah. And your assessment, your additional information, attend triage using own transport and triage. Because I wonder if you then have a problem with, can you admit her when she's already admitted upstairs? I wonder what happens then.
But Ricky said she's not admitted, she's a lodger, she's technically discharged.
But she's still going to sit on the board upstairs because she's in a bed. So she'll be discharged on IPM, which is a different thing. But she's still going to sit in a bed because she needs a bed on the board. So now, I can't remember what her name was.
Natasha Young.
Natasha Young. Wait for her to show up and find her. It's been very slow this evening. It's making me sad. But yeah, because I do wonder if it's going to clash, if it's going to say she is currently admitted to TCW, please discharge her before you admit for triage. Interesting question. Let's go and look at something else and then we'll come back and have a look at that. So are the things that are in your list. So we've done how to discharge a patient. So the how to complete a NIPE. So talking about NIPEs, the conversation that I've had with screening is that Ruth Naunton is like, I'm just going to come off here and let you look at my face rather than the screen for a sec. Ruth Naunton is really, really keen to get rid of all of the many, many bits of paper that currently come off the back of generating an IP. And so that process that happens at the moment, if they need a referral, that we currently put the bit of paper in the little room, or if you're in community, you send it in an envelope. She doesn't want us to do that anymore. She wants us to put a referral through Athena to screening team with a copy of the NIPE attached to the record, and then screening team will pick up on additional actions that are required for that baby. So what you'll need to be able to do that really effectively, and again, there will be guides, there'll be videos step by step on when you need to do this for the first time. So say if we go and find a baby, so who's got a baby? TCW's got babies. Let's go find some TC babies. So you are going to go in the notes. So what you would do is you would do the NIPE and you're going to go profile and you're going to go attachments. So when you do the NIPE in S4N, you are going to still print a copy of the NIPE because it's going to go in the baby buffs. You're still going to print the bit that goes in the front of the red book, but you're also going to save a PDF and you're going to add it as an attachment to the patient's record in here. So that's in profile and attachments. If you need to put through a referral for that baby, so we're going to add a referral required today. Referral reason.
But that's coming up as referral for mum, Robin Young, doesn't it? Or
yeah, so it puts the baby and the mum's records sit together. The baby doesn't have a record in its own right. It's a record together with mum. But what you're going to do is say, just for example, I don't know, what might I put that through for? Don't know, previous, doesn't really matter. Neonatal assessment.
HIP referral, yeah.
Yeah, for example. You would choose screening team in here, which will come up. You're going to put them behind the screening door. But you're also going to tell screening what you need. So you're going to go in here and you're going to add an action. So you are going to say arrange appointment, description of action, baby needs, HIP referral, as reach at or whatever it is. Target date today. In here, that's going to be screening team. Action status pending and finish. So what that means is that when screening go behind their door, they will find that sitting waiting for them. They'll open the record, they'll go to the action and they'll be right, okay, baby needs a HIP referral, we'll process that. And so they
It's a shame that we have to attach it as well, because they've got access from the S4N system of all the documents themselves, you know.
But it's not necessarily for screening, it's potentially for your MSW out in community, who sees them at day 5 and they've got a red mark on the side of their face or whatever, and needs to see the full NIPE record. So it's just about making it visible to everybody, basically.
Yeah. Do they go behind their doors every day?
Yes.
Is it checked daily?
Yes.
The same as like DAU and obviously not weekends, but
yeah, because the entire admin process is now going to run behind doors.
right. Okay.
It's going to be absolutely transformative for people like Jackie Lander and Jane Harvey, because their job's going to become much, much, much simpler. in terms
Will
of
it have the same potential issues as Protos does by pulling NHS numbers through for babies? Because obviously we'll complete the birth record for baby, and does it pull to the Guardian or the Athena? I can't remember which. Will it pull the NHS number through a lot quicker?
Yep.
So there's
so
not likely to be
basically,
lags.
No, shouldn't be. Should be fast. And that's one of the last things on my list. So we'll just do a quick how to generate a baby number. So this is part of your outcomes for intrapartum. But you go into, so we've had a baby, we've done our outcome screens. Being tired, clearly. You have.
You're not sharing, Francesca.
Oh, for God's sake, Francesca, share your screen. God's sake. Anyway, fine. So here you go into this one. So let's try here. I'm going to go into her notes. So she's already had a baby. So essentially what you've done is you've done your outcome screens in your intrapartum, you've documented your birth, you've said there's a baby. And so in here, under your baby button, you can register a baby. So the midwife in charge is you. Baby date and delivery time, live, appeared normal, registerable. Place of birth, labour ward, type of place of birth is going to be this one. Next, male or female. This is the hospital number that the system has given the baby. Ethnic origin is white British. Baby's address the same as mother's. It might get grumpy because it hasn't got an address record. Yeah. So we're going to say no fixed abode just for the purposes of it not getting upset about not having an address. So it's got a hospital number. At the moment, because it's not hooked up to live, it won't give me an NHS number, but that's where it will be. So literally you click that button, gives baby the hospital number and the NHS number at the same time. So times that is important. So if you have got a baby that's going to NICU, so K2 and Badger are hooked up together. So Badger needs an NHS number as the patient identifier. So if you've got a baby in theatre that's going up to NICU, if you go through to Athena, press that button, get it an NHS number, K2 will give Badger all of the details about that pregnancy. It takes over about 50 different data points so that when that baby hits NICU, it's already got a really decent history automatically on the system for it.
The blood spot labels, Fran. Oh, sorry, Mel. Yeah. The blood spot labels, is that the same that we already do? We just press that button and it gives and stick that bit of paper in the computer and it prints.
Yep. Exactly that. Yep.
Sorry, I don't know if I missed anything there. I'm simultaneously putting child to bed and things. With the registering the baby, you said it's on Athena, but we're probably going to be on a Guardian worktop in theatre. So do we need to get like a cow to be able to register the baby, or can we?
So
can we do it on the?
You can't do it on the portals. You have to do it on Athena.
Okay, fine.
You could probably do it from recovery though, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the thought. You know, in those situations, it's probably going to be the coordinator that's doing it to support the midwife in the room. So yeah, run out to recovery and then record it in there.
Fran, do you have to put any baby details in to get a number?
You have to have your birth, so you have to generate a birth to be able to have a baby.
So you can't just get it quickly without putting all those details in?
No, you have to at least enter information about the delivery.
And reception can't do this for us anymore like they used to? Can they generate a hospital number for us like they presently can?
They can, but then what's going to happen is you're going to generate a mismatch in the system, because IPM is going to give the baby a hospital number. K2 is going to give the baby a hospital number. So those records are not going to match, and they have to go in and be managed by the system manager, which in itself generates a problem later down the line for like day 3, day 5.
You don't have to put all the
screening.
details in though, do you? Because Dean said the other day, you don't need to have the weight or the APGARs or anything like that. It's literally just what type of delivery.
Yeah, and if you are just going through and generating a birth quickly to get an NHS number, for weight, you need to put 999. Because that means that the system recognises that that's probably a fake weight that's been entered just to generate a record, and NICU know that as well. And then we can go in and update the weight after.
That's the only thing I think we're going to have problems on. I think we might have to work together on that bit.
What, on all those shifts we're on together, yeah?
As in if we need to generate a baby number really quickly.
Are the ward clerks getting any of this training, Francesca, to be able to help, like for in this instance, or you know, to be able to assist?
Yeah, admin teams are being trained this week. They had their training materials go out today. They've got sessions scheduled. Hannah Perrett's doing them, who's the digital program board administrator. She's training them. I believe Leslie's on her list.
A bit off tangent, but when they go home, what are they actually taking with them? So if someone's being discharged from labour ward, what is the woman walking out of labour ward with, and what about if they're non-English speaking, what are they what are they leaving with?
They're leaving with their red book, essentially. And if they are non-English speaking, K2 actually does them a far better service than we do at the moment. So I would like to hope that their midwife antenatally would have had conversations with them about how to change the language settings in K2. So it's machine translate rather than human translate. But if we've set the notes into their home language, it will translate their information for them.
And the people who are currently, currently pregnant, so you've got your people who are like 28, 30 weeks. Yep. What's happening with their notes? Are we transferring them across, or are we just going to just finish the ones who are booked currently on the paper notes until they're over and done with?
No, because otherwise that ruins triage, which the CQC are grumpy about. So I need to make sure that triage is as looked after as they can possibly be. So essentially, right. So in terms of the go live waves, so the plan is that we go live in the inpatient areas on the 22nd, though heads up, we might have to move that a couple of days because of a couple of infrastructure problems this week. I need trunking and I haven't got trunking. It's a whole thing. But anyway, we might have to take inpatient back a couple of days to fix a few last bits of infrastructure stuff. And then antenatal clinic and DAU go a week later on the 29th. With the first slice of community, and then community go on the 6th for the second slice, and then community go on the 13th for their third slice. So what that means is patients that are currently booked on paper notes, we're asking them to retain their paper notes right the way through the rest of their pregnancy. And if they call triage and they're invited into triage, we are obviously going to generate a K2 record for them. So the problem that presents me, and it's a really interesting problem, is if you are a patient who is in a children's centre that's due to go live in week 3, you have an antenatal appointment in week 2, but you call triage in week 1. What do we do about that triage encounter that we want to do digitally, knowing actually that you're not intended to go digital until week 3, because that's when your children's centre goes. So we've been having a conversation about a process, and I'll take your opinion on this, where Sarah Dormer really elegantly calls it being kissed by K2. So basically, if they call triage in week 1, We're still going to document on K2 because triage is live, and that's how we're going to do that. But we're going to put a sticker on their notes. Because in week 2, it's not fair to suddenly put it on the community midwife out of nowhere to be documenting on K2 when they're not expecting to start using it until the following week. But we're going to mark their notes with a sticker to say that they do have a K2 record. So their community midwife will continue to document on paper, but they know to go and look that there has been a triage interaction documented elsewhere that's not going to be in the paper notes. And then they will go live in week 3. So over a 3-week period, we should have everybody everywhere live. There are admin processes going on using community midwives and also admin teams to generate records for patients so that we do the short booking process so that women have got records when they come in to see us, but there will be some situations where patients have not been booked as they come through triage, and we are going to have to put them on the system. For intrapartum, as I said, it's not so much of a drama because you can just admit them for intrapartum care regardless of whether they've had a short booking, and you can just look after them and that's fine and deal with the paperwork after. But that's broadly the plan for getting everybody to live.
What happens? Sorry, Francesca. What happens if they've delivered the day before go live and then they're on Argyle ward the day of go live?
Yeah, clinical cutover. This one's really interesting. I was talking to Kerry about this the other day. What does clinical cutover look like? So, again, take your opinion on this. If you are in labour on go live day, you've started your labour on paper, I don't feel like it's safe to suddenly transition to a digital system. So you complete your labour on paper. However, the outcome for your labour, we're going to do on K2 because we're not going to have Protos that we can use. So when you go up to the ward or when you go home, you are going to be on digital records. So you're going to labour on paper, then we're going to take you to digital. You're going to do the rest of your pathway digitally. If you are a postie that's on Argyle on the day of go live, so you've delivered on paper, you've already got your paper notes, we're going to run out your pathway on paper. We're going to complete the rest of the journey. You're going to float around with paper for another couple of weeks, then we're going to collect them, then we're going to file them, and then they're going to go away. If you are an antenate sitting on Argyle, then at the point of go live, we will generate a new digital record. We will put a note in your antenatal notes to say, please refer to Katie for further documentation. And from that point on, you're digital. But again, really, really happy to take thoughts on that process.
Apart from those women that might have had an antenatal admission and then gone back out to community midwife who's not yet gone live. So then she'll just have a sticker until she goes live.
Yes, exactly. So there's going to be that sort of 2 to 3 week period where there's going to be your posties still floating around on paper and your antenates that are not yet live, but it's quite a short window. So by the time we get to like the week before Christmas, everybody will be live.
I feel like we're going to need more staff in triage because we're going to be doing mini bookings on everybody. That's a concern for me, especially as nights are normally still staffed on one midwife.
Yeah, but you can still triage them. You can still take calls.
No, I get that, but I think it's just going to increase the workload for that one midwife, and I'm not sure that's been taken into account when the off duty's been done.
If you've got an MSW, then the MSW can do it. I know that's not necessarily ideal, but you're literally taking information from the notes as to the day.
I know, but it's also on. I mean, I've obviously worked predominantly nights, so I'm looking at it from a night perspective. That triage goes from 3 members of staff and SWAST to 1 at 7:30 to one midwife.
Yeah,
I'm just a little bit concerned what that's going to do.
So as I said, there is this process that's going to be running in parallel alongside, because the database will be live from a couple of days before live, and your community midwives and your admin teams are going to be booking women. So it's not like suddenly on the 22nd nobody's going to have a record. We are working through a process of getting them records. I'm not going to lie, those first few days are going to be difficult while we catch up on ourselves. But yeah.
Are you still planning on having support in 24/7 for the first couple of days?
So you'll have 24/7 support for the first week. And then, well, so 24/7 support from the digital transformation team for the first 7 days. And then they're doing 7 a.m. until 11 p.m. for the following 2 weeks. But we're also going to have these K2 super users that are midwives that I'm going to train, who are going to be working supernumerary, who will be able to support on how do I do this, how do I do that. But actually for them, you know, if you don't have an immediate system query, sitting in triage booking patients is a really good way to use their time.
Yeah, no, agreed. Okay, thank you.
All right.
What about, just to be awkward as well, so a patient who doesn't have access to a phone, you know, asylum seeker, doesn't have access to something that you have their digital records on for whatever reason?
So I did a digital access survey about a year ago, where I called 300 patients that were seen through our services over the course of a week. And I did a real pick and mix. I talked to Sycamore folks, I talked to English as a foreign language folks, I talked to folks going through antenatal clinic. I just pick and mixed people from all of the different children's centres right across the city, 300 random diverse people. Of my 300, and like the English as a second language folks, I big worded it, I spoke to them through translation, like I was really thorough with it. And of my 300, only one person told me that they thought they wouldn't be able to access their notes because they accessed the internet through the PlayStation, which I didn't know you could do. But anyway, they were of all of the rest of the people that I was worried about, like the Sycamore folks and the English as a second language folks, they actually felt that online notes were much better for them because they could translate them or so on and so forth. If you get a patient that cannot access online notes for whatever reason, then we can give them copies on paper. We're going to continue to document digitally because we need to have that record, but we can print details after consultations, we can give them to them. They are still going to have little cardboard folders with public health advice and numbers to call and you know, for their scan photos and all those sorts of things. They're not going to have the big plastic bags like we do now, but they are going to have something with them so we can print on paper and give it to them and they can carry them around. But those are not our records. Our records are on KT.
Yeah, another
cohort of women I can think of is the Trevi women, because they're only allowed a brick, so they probably won't have access to their records, will they?
Do they have access to the internet at all within Trevi?
I don't think so. I think they're only allowed a brick phone. They're only allowed a Nokia 3310 type phone, and then they're allowed supervised access, possibly with a social worker present or one of the Trevi ladies present. But I don't think the Trevi women are allowed access freely to the internet because they can go off and buy stuff and contact people that they're not supposed to be in contact with.
Well, so this is a conversation that we're going to have at booking. It's part of the booking protocol. Do you want to use the online notes? Do the online notes work for you? And if the answer is no, we'll print them and give them paper.
Francesca, another question. So with our sad losses, people down in room 10, obviously the default screen that Guardian keeps going back to is of a CTG trace.
Yeah.
So it looks not very nice for them.
So my recommendation is if you are doing bereavement care, I think you take a workstation on wheels down and you document it on Athena, not Guardian, because Athena is a much pared back version of Guardian. And in terms of how you do birth care on Athena, let me show you that. So go home and you can again go to your locations, go to your patient. So you're still going to. Oh, damn it. I need to write it at the top of my laptop. Okay, this one, this one. Yeah, so you would go to your ward list, same as you always would. If I got an antenate, so yeah, Anne Beckham. So I can go in and I can view her inpatient notes. So I can go into labour and I can diagnose her in labour. So I can go labour progress, labour diagnosis. Now she's in established labour, spontaneous, vertex. Now We're going to talk about OAC. Intrapartum risk assess completed, yes, no. Antenatal risk factors, intrapartum factors, yes, no. And we're going to discontinue monitoring. Yep. And other. Explain why we're not monitoring. So now on here, you have your partogram that you can document care in there, the same as you always would. It's not going to force you to particularly enter any certain points of data, but you can do all of your labour progress stuff, start at second stage, pushing, membranes and LICOR, pain management, drugs and fluids, delivery scribe, all of those things you can still access through Athena, but it's much more discreet. You can just sit in the corner with it. It's not going to ping. It's not going to start shouting. It's not going to encourage you to take any particular actions. It will just let you document the labour. And then when you do your outcomes, you would indicate that that was a fetal loss.
And just because I've just seen the partogram there as well, so can you going back to obs charts, can you just document one of the observations, like a blood pressure, if you're in a BPA, or do you have to literally do a full set of obs that, whenever you do a BPA?
No. So BPAs live under specialisms. So it is under hypertension.
So you just need to learn where all of this stuff is.
Yeah, right. Which is why you're going to have the Padlet to just be like, hang on a second, how do we do this? So it might actually be under clinical assessments. See, even I sometimes forget where bits of things are. No PV bleed, no lying placenta.
You almost
no.
want a search bottom at the top. A search at the top. You
Yes.
can just type BPA and you just go straight to that.
Yes, I agree. I can't remember where it is. I will go and find it for you. But there is a whole BPA section. Is it under observations? Other observations.
Even if it wasn't for a BPA, if you just randomly wanted to check a temperature 2 hours after previous temperature, do you have to do the full set of obs?
No. I found blood pressure series, by the way. It's under observations and it's there, blood pressure series. So you'd go in and document them. But no, so essentially, so you've got your chart, you can add your muse, which prompts you to do the full set. But you can also just add a pressure, just add a heart rate, just add a temperature. So it will still push it to the chart, but it means you don't have to do the full thing.
Perfect, thank you.
Is that the same on Guardian? So you can just do a heart rate like hourly for like your intrapartum? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, on Guardian, you can just click on the partogram. So obviously Athena's not touchscreen, but you can just click on the partogram and enter your record, or you can just go to observations, choose the observation that you want and just enter it that way. Have you had a lovely
And did you
time?
say we can have access to the test? Can we have access to mess around?
Yep. Let me do that now while I've got you all on the call. So you do need to use a Trust laptop or a Trust machine to be able to do that. But let me put you all in so that you are good to go. Just need to join the VPN so that I can get the G drive.
Completely unrelated, but absolutely necessary. Are you going to add our hours to Health Roster for this? Thank you very much.
Absolutely, because I appreciate your time and attention. Okay.
Are you sleeping at all, Francesca? Do you get time to sleep?
Mate, do I get time to sleep?
Are you actually sleeping?
Not terribly well. I wake up at 5 AM going, oh, I've got to send that email. But yeah, literally all I do, everywhere I go, I just talk about Play-Doh. I'm really boring. But you know, it'll all be worth it in the end.
You've done amazing though. I don't envy you whatsoever.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. This last week or so has been really quite super bumpy because we're now under the spotlight of the big serious folks, and they keep turning up with these lists of like, have you done this, have you done this, have you done this, and have you done this? And a lot of it I have done, but I've done because I thought it was the right thing to do rather than somebody had told me. And I'm just a little bit like, I wish you told me that I need to do all these things, but all right. So yeah, the push to live is just going to be really hard. And yeah, the fact that we now might have to delay for a few days to get the infrastructure in place is just annoying. Oh, right, it is what it is.
I really appreciate this extra session that you've put on for us as well, because that's really been really helpful adding on from the other day.
Yeah, agree. This has been like, yeah, a lot more information that was needed. So thank you.
I'm